Imagine a place where the sea whispers secrets to those who listen. Now, imagine those secrets are not whispers of love, but echoes of a tragedy. Nestled on the Northeast Lincolnshire coast, Grimsby appears a tranquil harbor town, steeped in maritime heritage and bustling with the quiet routine of daily life. Here, families stroll along the pier, fishermen share tales of the sea, and laughter mingles with the salty breeze. But beneath this serene surface, a storm was brewing, one that would shake Grimsby to its core. January 15th, 2018, dawned like any other day in Grimsby. But by dusk, it had turned into a nightmare. The town buzzed with its usual weekday morning routine. Fishermen headed out to sea, shopkeepers dusted off their windowsills, and the smell of fresh bread wafted from the bakery on Main Street. Tony Richardson, known in the community for his rough edges and warm smile, spent his morning like many before, sharing stories over coffee at the local diner. As the sun set, so did the ordinary in Tony's life, paving the way for an extraordinary horror. In a tale as old as time, two strangers meet, but this was no fairy tale. Tony Richardson, a man whose life was a patchwork of personal struggles and brief recoveries, found a semblance of solace in writing letters. His pen pal, Sarah Finney, a security guard with her own share of secrets, seemed like a promising bridge to a less lonely existence. Their correspondence began innocently enough. Tony, ever the optimist despite his tumultuous past, wrote about his hopes and small victories over his demons. Sarah, on the other hand, shared little about her emotional landscapes, but was keen on the details of daily routines and security work. It was this exchange of mundanities and dreams that initially painted a picture of mutual understanding. However, beneath the surface, their personalities were a study in contrast. Tony's openness clashed with Sarah's inherently guarded nature, setting the stage for misunderstandings. What drew them together was not just a shared loneliness, but also an unspoken desire to be understood and accepted. What started as a search for companionship soon spiraled into a conduit for darker motives. As letters flew back and forth, the ink began to spell doom. Tony Richardson, a man wrestling with his demons, found an unexpected friend in Sarah Finney. Their correspondence, initially filled with hope and mutual understanding, gradually morphed into something far more sinister. Sarah, ostensibly a confidant, harbored darker intentions. Behind her comforting words, a plan was taking root, a plan involving her husband, Mark, a man with his own set of grievances. As Tony shared more of his vulnerabilities, Sarah and Mark began weaving a web, using Tony's trust against him. The letters, once a lifeline, became a tool for manipulation. With every heartfelt confession from Tony, Sarah gleaned information, piecing together the elements of a trap. Mark, complicit in this scheme, stood in the shadows, ready to act on the signal. As the correspondence grew, so did the layers of deceit. Each exchange, seemingly benign, was a calculated step towards a sinister end. With each letter, the noose of deceit tightened, masked by words of camaraderie and trust. It was a trap set with precision, but not for a beast, for a man. The evening air in Grimsby was chilly, the streets quiet, as Tony Richardson unsuspectingly walked towards his fate. Hidden in the darkness, security cameras, usually silent witnesses to mundane daily life, were now co-opted into a sinister plot. Sarah Finney, using her position and access to the security system, had meticulously mapped out Tony's usual routes. Her husband, Mark, lay in wait, his intentions as cold as the night air. The cameras that should have offered safety were instead used to track Tony's movements, ensuring he would walk right into the ambush. As Tony approached the designated spot, Mark emerged. The assault was brutal and swift, captured in chilling clarity by the very cameras meant to deter such violence. It was a grotesque betrayal of trust, employing the tools of security to engineer a man's downfall. In the shadows of trust, the darkest plans flourished. The aftermath was chaos, the investigation, a maze. As the echoes of the brutal assault resonated through the streets of Grimsby, the community reeled in horror. Neighbors, friends, and strangers alike grappled with the grim reality of the violence that had shattered their sense of security. Detectives swiftly cordoned off the crime scene, their faces set in grim determination. The initial hours were crucial, and the police worked against the clock to gather evidence. The blood-stained pavement, the disarrayed CCTV footage, and the eyewitness accounts formed the early pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that seemed to have no edges. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A local shopkeeper, recalling an unusual purchase made by Sarah Finney just days before the attack, provided the police with a receipt for a large purchase of zip ties and duct tape. This seemingly mundane transaction turned into a critical lead. Detective Chief Inspector Stuart Miller and his team delved deeper into Sarah and Mark Finney's life. The investigation unearthed a trove of resentful communications between Sarah and Tony, hidden behind the facade of a benign pen-pal relationship. Each message, each veiled threat, added depth to the profile of a woman scorned, her patience worn thin. The community's reaction was a mix of anger and disbelief. Vigils were held, and the local church became a sanctuary for those seeking solace and answers. The Grimsby Food Kitchen, where Tony once sought refuge, organized a memorial, symbolizing a beacon of hope amidst the despair. As pieces of the puzzle fell into place, a picture of calculated vengeance emerged. Behind the violence lay a web of emotions, tangled and toxic. At the core of this tragic narrative was not just a clash of personalities, but a storm of deep-seated jealousy and resentment. Sarah Finney, whose life once quietly intersected with Tony Richardson's, harbored a growing bitterness that festered over time. Her motives were complex, woven from threads of perceived betrayals and unmet expectations. As Tony attempted to rebuild his life, his successes, however modest, seemed to Sarah like a mirror reflecting her own insecurities and failures. This reflection became unbearable. Mark Finney, influenced by his wife's escalating discontent, became an unwitting pawn in this deadly game. The resentment that Sarah nurtured against Tony was weaponized, transforming personal vendettas into a violent plan. Their unchecked emotions spiraled, setting the stage for the irreversible. Thus, what started as a simmering pot of jealousy and personal grievances boiled over into actions that would tear apart lives and shock a community. What began as unresolved whispers in the heart culminated in a scream that echoed across Grimsby. A community wounded, a lesson harshly taught. In the wake of Tony Richardson's tragic murder, the quaint town of Grimsby was draped in a heavy cloak of sorrow and disbelief. The fabric of this tight-knit community, once woven with trust and camaraderie, began to unravel as the details of the crime surfaced. Neighbors who used to greet each other with smiles now exchanged looks of suspicion and fear. It was a poignant reminder of how a single act of violence could shake the foundations of a seemingly peaceful community. The psychological scars left by this event were profound. Children and adults alike were forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that danger could lurk behind familiar faces. Schools held sessions on safety and trust, while local forums buzzed with discussions on community vigilance. The ripple effects of Tony's murder underscored a crucial lesson about the fragility of human relationships and the dark corners of human nature. As Grimsby grappled with this new reality, there emerged a collective determination to understand and mitigate the undercurrents of aggression and resentment within the community. Workshops on conflict resolution and talks on mental health became more prevalent, as residents sought to build bridges rather than walls. This tragedy also sparked a broader dialogue on the importance of transparency and accountability in personal and professional relationships. It reminded everyone that while it's human to err, it's also human to seek redemption and reconciliation. In the quiet aftermath, Grimsby found its voice, whispering a cautionary tale of the shadows we all harbor. In Grimsby, the sea still whispers, but with a note of caution, a reminder of the darkness that once visited. The chilling story of Tony Richardson and Sarah Finney in The Dark Secrets of a Murder, Killed by Her Pen Pal, unfolds a narrative rife with deception, betrayal, and tragedy. It began as a seemingly innocent pen-pal relationship and spiraled into a deadly plot fueled by resentment and revenge. This tale serves as a stark reminder of the complexities hidden within personal relationships and the devastating impact they can have when they go awry. The documentary meticulously explores how unchecked emotions and past grievances can lead to catastrophic decisions and actions. It highlights the importance of vigilance and understanding in our interactions with others, revealing how easily the line between friend and foe can be blurred. As we look beyond the horizon, let us carry the lessons of Grimsby with us, lest history repeats itself on another unsuspecting shore.